Hello friends, starting soon an unmissable live coverage here on Sailor Today TV.
MSc 107. He will be touching upon certain agendas on IMO, decision on IMO bodies, MASS, safety assignment, watchkeeping, ship system equipments, navigation, communication, search and rescue, work program. He will take it up in detail. He desires that after each agenda, you can post your question and ask him. Thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Good morning, sir.
We request all to mute their video. We will have a Q&A session later on, and you're invited to put your chat in your questions. Now I like to invite Captain MP Basin, our dear Secretary General of the Company of Master Mariners, to take the session forward.
Thank you, Captain Sasi. Thank you so much. Just to take it forward, during this session, if you have any questions, please put it on the chat. And please put a question mark specific to the Captain Natarajan's presentations. He will be going through the presentation. He'll be showing also a PPT, and he's all yours. He's all yours. Just to add on to before I invite Arvind, just to tell that he also attends many IMO sessions and subcommittee meetings on STW, NCSR, PTR, and registered with several technical and expert groups at IMO. Currently, he is involved with the comprehensive review of the STW convention and the code, developing training frameworks with the IMO Secretariat. So it's a very good chance for us that he is here. So, Arvind, we welcome you, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you, sir.
I request, please mute yourself. All others. Captain Matthews, आपके यहाँ से कुछ आवाज आ रहा है पीछे से, Captain Flip Matthew. Kindly mute. Thank you.
Wait, can you go ahead,
while just one second, one thing. While we are here on the Zoom, the same presentation is also on the CMI Facebook page as well as Sailor Today YouTube. It's concurrently going on there also. Yes, Arvind, please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much to CMMI Secretariat and also to Captain Halbe from MASA for facilitating this. And already I'm feeling very happy because I was described as a young CMMI member. So it is not an adjective that somebody describes me with, but thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Yes, just a short introduction about me. So I started my seafaring career in 1995 as a cadet from Den Club, and for that, Captain Halbe and Mr. Advani, I have to really thank you for that. So may I request if we can just mute those who aren't speaking, sir? Right, thank you. So my seafaring career was lasted about 20 years. The last 8 years of that, I was sailing as a captain on oil and chemical tankers. After this, I had a short stint as a lecturer of technical topics and maritime law at the University of Suffolk here in England, and this was followed by a short tenure as Port State Control Officer for the UK Maritime and Coast Guard Agency. So at the moment, I am employed with the International Chamber of Shipping as a senior marine advisor, and my area of expertise is crewing and training matters, as well as oil and chemical tanker operational aspects. So what this means is that I attend the committee meetings of maritime safety and maritime and marine environment protection, but I also attend many subcommittee meetings as well as some technical groups in relation to seafarer training or oil and chemical tanker operational matters. And at these meetings, I speak on behalf of ship owners. So it is quite interesting to see the number of stakeholders who are engaging at IMO. So definitely a very good experience for me. So before I go ahead, so just a short disclaimer. In today's briefing, I will not touch upon all the decisions that were taken at MSc 107 because that is too much in detail. So I am only going to speak about some of the decisions that were taken, which I think are of interest for all of us here. The complete report is available on the IMO's secure portal. But if it is of interest to you, I can also forward that for yourselves. And most important, I just want to say that any views that I express during the presentation are actually my own views. They don't reflect the views of my employer, that is International Chamber of Shipping. Right? So that's for the small print. So we will going ahead. In today's presentation, I intend to present the outcomes from these agenda items, which you can see on the screen there. So I felt that these are items which are of interest to all those who are attending here. So I'm sorry that this looks a lot for Saturday morning, but I promise to keep it very interactive and interesting. My intention is that after I explain about each agenda item, the floor is open for questions. So please, you can either use the raise hand function or you can put your questions on the chat box, and I'll request Captain Sasikumar if that can be just conveyed to me so I can address the question immediately at the end of the agenda item. Right. Going ahead. So the first agenda item, which is decision of other IMO bodies, usually under this agenda item, any decisions that were taken in relation to any of the major conventions in other subcommittee meetings are discussed here, which is normally routine. But of late, many of the discussions under this agenda item have become largely political, with some member states denouncing other member states because of missile launches which are unannounced or illegal occupation of territory of one from the other, and then there is a predictable response from the other as well. Something of interest for all of us is just to summarize, there was a proposal by Ukraine that COCs and Siemens identity documents that were issued to Russian seafarers in areas that are occupied by the Russian Federation. So there was a proposal by Ukraine that these should be recognized as fraudulent. Predictably, Russian Federation, of course, gave their own argument against the proposal. But there was a long discussion in the plenary of MSc. But the final decision that was made was that the committee, as you can see in the second para, the committee encouraged flag and port states to consider these issues and take appropriate action. What does this mean? This means that IMO is not going to issue any kind of guideline or circular, and specifically for port state control officers, they do not have any legal basis to detain any ship on the basis of seafarers' documentation issued in those areas which are now temporarily occupied by Russian Federation. When it comes to flag state documentation, so if a flag state issues a certificate of equivalency or certificate of proficiency based on those certificates issued to Russian seafarers, what the committee decided was that it was up to the flag state to decide whether they want to recognize seafarer documentation from those areas or not. So at the time of this meeting, I have been speaking with the major flag states, that is Bahamas, Liberia, Marshall Islands. And from what I have gathered, there is no intention to de-recognize certification from those areas. And I've also spoken with the Russian Federation and Ukraine delegates, and their intention is that they will reissue certification to just show that the certificate was issued by the Russian Federation or by Ukraine government of Ukraine. And so any seafarers, they are advised that if it is possible to go apply for the reissuance of certification. So as I see it, there will be no problem to seafarers who have got seafarers documentation from those disputed areas. Are there any questions about this? No, I believe not.
I think we'll get the questions at the end. Let the people absorb the things and they'll put in the chat.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
No problem, sir. No problem. So the next agenda item, which I think is of interest, is development of goal-based instrument for maritime autonomous surface ships. So what the IMO has done is IMO has completed a regulatory scoping exercise, and the scoping exercise is to see which IMO conventions are going to be affected by autonomous ships. Mainly it would be the SOLAS, MARPOL, COLREX convention, etc. So they have completed this regulatory scoping exercise. During MSc 107, a working group was established, but most of the discussion during the working group was mostly political. So there were questions as to whether a mass operator, should that person be designated as a seafarer? And the problem with that is that the STCW convention does not define who is a seafarer. Seafarer is defined in labor conventions. So there was a discussion whether the mass operator is a seafarer, and what is the liability in case an autonomous ship is involved in any kind of pollution incident, and what is the jurisdiction of UNCLOS, because UNCLOS specifically says that a ship has to be manned by personnel. So there were so many discussions that were taking place, but some decisions that have been finalized is that it has been decided that it is premature at this time to consider applicability of STCW convention to seafarers working on board an autonomous ship and remote operations at a remote operations center. So the general idea in the room is that STCW convention is restricted to seafarers who are working on the ship, but operators who are operating a ship but not working on the ship, for that perhaps the training standards has to be addressed in a new convention. So these were the kind of discussions that were going on. What has also been agreed is that a mass code is expected to be delivered and effective from 1st July 2024. This will be non-mandatory, but the mandatory code will become mandatory from 1st of July 2026, and the entry into force will be in January 2028. So to go ahead with this work, because we have a deadline, it has been decided that there will be intersessional meetings, working groups that will be established at IMO, which of course I will be involved in that as well. So personally, for me, I'm a bit disappointed because we don't seem to be making much headway into this. Discussions are mostly political, and IMO seems to be putting in a lot of effort on autonomous ships, whereas there are other important issues that need to be tackled. But that is my personal opinion. Going ahead, the next agenda item is development of further measures to enhance safety of ships relating to the use of fuel oil. So just to give a background, at MSc 106, MSc 106 adopted some amendments to SOLAS Chapter 2, Part 2. And according to this, any fuel oil which is delivered on board ships should, of course, have a bunker delivery note, but the bunker delivery note must state the flash point of the fuel. And it must also have a statement which says that the flash point of the batch that has been supplied to the ship is in conformance with the requirements of SOLAS. So this is a new requirement. And also what was approved was an amendment to Regulation 4 of SOLAS Chapter 2. So what does this mean? This means that when it comes to fuel oil parameters other than flash point, there is a requirement that the fuel oil must not jeopardize the safety of ships or adversely affect the performance of the machinery or be harmful to the personnel. So essentially, it means that flash point has to be declared on the bunker delivery note. And that flash point should not be for a generic fuel oil. It should be specifically for the batch that is being supplied on board the ship. So the entry into force for this requirement is going to be from 1st of January 2026. So if any interested parties here are dealing with bunker fuel suppliers, please note that this is going to be a requirement from 1st January 2026. Agenda item 10 was a formal safety assessment. So to give a background, fires on container ships, particularly the fires that originate from the containerized cargo, have been increasing in the past 5 years. And this has aligned with the general increase in the size of container ships. So just to give you an idea, the fleet has, the capacity of a container ship fleet has increased by 30% over the last 2 years. And we are now seeing very large and ultra large container ships. There is also a kind of a gray area about declaration of goods that are being containerized, etc. So what has happened is that a study has been undertaken by the European Maritime Safety Agency, EMSA. The result of the study is in the link, which is there here on the screen. But I can also provide you with the study if you're interested. So the goal of this study is to identify what measures can be taken to reduce the risk of cargo fires on container ships. So and this study includes new builds as well as existing container ships. So what is now going to happen is that the report that has been prepared by EMSA, and they have suggested quite a few safety measures that need to be taken. I think the impact on existing ships is going to be a lot more, because new ships, of course, after a certain date will be built in that manner. But existing ships, to convert to the new safety measures, it's going to be very significant. And what is now going to happen is this report will go to an experts group and where it will be debated. So my employers, my organization, we will be involved in that experts group. And at this point, we don't have anything more to say, but I shall be updating you in the future. But I think we are going to see some significant changes in container operations in the next few years. May I ask to mute?
Please mute.
Right. Thank you. Agenda item 13, and this is an item which is very close to my heart because I deal with this a lot, and this is involving human element training and watchkeeping. So the first thing that was decided was that model courses, IMO model courses, should not be converted to e-learning training material. So this, I think, there was a lot of opposition about this. because I think the way of imparting training and education in the future is going more and more advanced, and it is no longer the traditional classroom method. But this was the decision that was taken, that model courses from the IMO's side will not be converted into e-learning training material. However, this does not stop individual administrations to approve approve the development of e-learning training material. It does not stop that, but the decision from the IMO was that they will not be they will not be initiating changing over to e-learning training material. Another important thing that was approved was draft amendments to STCW code table A 1-4, and you may be aware that this is concerning the person safety and social responsibility course. So what is now included is new competencies, KUPs, and evidence requirements for bullying and harassment, including sexual assault and sexual harassment. So these have been approved by MSc. The next step is that, because this is also a labor issue, the next step is that this will be discussed in a joint ILO and IMO tripartite working group in the first quarter of next year, and that meeting is going to be in Geneva, which I will be attending. But most important, a lot of major ship owners or ship operators will also be attending that at Geneva, and they will look at the competencies that have been introduced in the in that table PSSR course, and they will debate on it. And following approval from this working group, it will go to MSc 108, which will be in May of 2024 for adoption. And once it is adopted, it will come into force by next year. Now, I must say that there is a push from a lot of labor organizations to introduce a lot more detail into this PSSR course. But I think we have to be mindful that the PSSR course, I believe, is a 4-hour course, and we really cannot introduce more and more competencies, because it just becomes too much. In a 4-hour course, if we have to introduce this competency as well as competencies which they are talking about for psychological safety, I believe it is a bit too much for the PSSR course. So there is going to be a lot of debate about this. From training, maritime education training instructors' point of view, I think the draft amendments are already available, and it would be better to start getting prepared on how to deliver training for bullying, harassment, sexual assault, sexual harassment. In this regard, I think there are some employers who have been quite proactive, and they are in fact imparting this training on their internal company management system. What has also been approved is guidelines for use of electronic certificates for seafarers. Now, this is electronic certification of seafarers. The guidelines are issued by MSc. There is also a guideline for electronic certification of ship certificates, which are issued under the FAL Convention. So now the next step is to amalgamate all the guidelines and make one guideline for electronic certification for seafarers and ships under that are having certificates under SOLAS, MARPOL, and all other major conventions. So that is going to be the next step. And these future guidelines for this, there will be a joint committee working group, which of course I will be, ICS will be involved in that. So more about this in the coming years. Agenda item 14 was ship systems and equipment. So MSc 107 adopted amendments to resolution MSc.81 session 70, ventilation of totally enclosed lifeboats. So what does this mean? This means that in the future, totally enclosed lifeboats should have a system to admit sufficient air into the lifeboat at all times, so as to prevent a long-term concentration of carbon dioxide of more than 5,000 ppm. So 5,000 ppm has been taken as the threshold beyond which the atmosphere is deemed not conducive for human occupation. So lifeboats must have, totally enclosed lifeboats must have a system for introducing air, even if all the entrances into the lifeboat are completely closed. So what this means is that the means of ventilation should be operable from inside the lifeboat, and it should be sufficient so that no unventilated pockets are created inside the lifeboat. And if this ventilation system is powered, so it is not necessary that it has to be powered, it can be natural ventilation as well. But if it is powered, then there should be sufficient energy to operate the power system for not less than 24 hours. So that is the requirement now coming into the future. The application for this, the entry into force of this requirement is from 1st of January 2026. And the application is for all lifeboat installations after 1st of January 2029. So from that time onwards, lifeboats will need to have ventilation systems. So for this, of course, my employers, we argued that the requirement should not be retroactive, which means that we do not want existing installations to now convert to the new requirements. So and we are quite happy with this outcome. But I'm eager to hear your opinion about this, which we can do at the end of the presentation. Under agenda item 15, this was discussing the outcomes from the navigation, communication, and search and rescue subcommittees. A topic that was being discussed was delays due to availability of GMDSS equipment. Several ship owners and operators have brought forward this problem that new requirements for GMDSS radio installations, that is to allow digital services, the new equipment is not easily available. There are very few manufacturers. So what has been decided is that a Maritime Safety Committee has allowed continued installation of shipborne VHF, MF, and MFHF radio installations as per the old performance standards, and I can provide the old assembly resolutions about the performance standards, and these will be allowed until 1st of January 2028. However, I did speak with the delegate from ITU, International Telecommunications Union, and CIRM, and it looks like even meeting this deadline is going to be difficult. But as of now, existing installations are allowed until 1st of January 2028. The second matter that was discussed was that there was a proposal from the UK Hydrographic Office to discontinue paper charts after 2030. ICS, my employer, and Germany, we presented a submission explaining what are the concerns for ship owners and operators for discontinuing paper charts. The reason for this is because ECDIS, electronic charts, is not a requirement for all ships, depending on size and trade. So so what has been decided was that a letter will be sent from the IMO Secretariat to the International Hydrographic Office, asking them to reconsider their decision, and there is broad support at the IMO from member states that this decision should be revoked by the UK Hydrographic Office. So that is the decision. Another thing that has been endorsed is non-mandatory APMs, that is associated protective measures. in the Northwest Mediterranean, particularly sensitive area. So what this means is that in the Northwest Mediterranean area, the requirements are with reference to cetaceans, so like whales, etc. So if you observe whales, then there are some non-mandatory speed reductions, distance to be maintained from these aquatic animals, and requirement for reporting. However, I want to say that these are non-mandatory at the moment. So the next step is that this will go to NEPC. This will be discussed there as well. But what I see is that there will be a joint circular issued by MSC and NEPC, which will explain what are the non-mandatory requirements, and ship owners and operators are encouraged to comply with the non-mandatory requirements. And these are requirements for speed reduction and maintaining distance and reporting cetaceans if they observe cetaceans. Finally, the last topic is agenda item 17, which is work program. Now, this is the agenda where there are proposals for any new work that needs to be done in the future. Before any discussion started, the chair of the Maritime Safety Committee, Ms. Maite Medina from US, she just gave a bit of an overview. So according to her, at MSC 107, there was a record number of new work proposals, that is 22. And based on previous Maritime Safety Committee sessions, there are still more than 90 work proposals that have been approved, but no work has been done upon it. And there are more than 10 which are in the post-biennial. So what does it mean by post-biennial? Post-biennial means that this work has been put in the future, but an undefined time, and depending on the workload of the subcommittees, this work might be taken. And as you can see, there is a backlog from 2011 for some work to be done. So according to the chair from MSC, this excessive workload has impacted the health of the IMO Secretariat. So for the next session at MSC 108, no proposals for any new work will be considered unless they are urgent. Now, who will make the decision on what is urgent? That is entirely dependent on the chair and the IMO Secretariat. There was no explanation given as to what guidelines they will follow, but essentially only urgent proposals will be taken up in MSC 108 onwards. And what they are also considering is forming a smaller group of member states, and they will conduct an assessment of how to decide which work has to be taken ahead from the existing backlog. So this was the beginning of this agenda item. Following that, some work that was proposed at MSC 107 has actually gone ahead. So the first thing was development of a safety regulatory framework to support reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. This work, Maritime Safety Committee and MEPC together will coordinate this work, and this has been placed in the next biennial agenda, which means that from MSC 108 onwards, discussions will start about this particular work item. And as you can see in the third paragraph, all these subcommittees, including HGW, are included. So what this means is that in the future, from next year onwards, specifically from the seafarers' point of view, we shall start developing training guidelines for seafarers who are going to work on ships using alternative fuel. For the purpose of IMO, the alternative fuels are LNG, hydrogen, methanol, and ammonia. So we will be preparing a training framework. This will go in the future, it will go in the IGF code training. So that is going to be amended. And for this particular work, I am working along with ITF, International Transport Workers Federation. We are working with the IMO Secretariat and World Maritime University to develop this training framework. So more about this in the future, but I think we are going to see significant changes in the STCW convention in the future. But I will be able to provide a better update about this towards the end of this year. So the target fuels, the fuels that we are targeting are methanol, hydrogen, ammonia, and LNG is of course already there within the IGF code. So I'm quite happy and thrilled that we are now putting our efforts into this rather than autonomous ships, which I think in my lifetime I will not be able to see an autonomous ship operating commercially. But that is my opinion. Another output that was agreed upon was recommendations on the safe use of pesticides. Now, the reason for this is because recently, when I was a port state control inspector for MCA, we came across several incidents of pesticides being introduced into grain cargo. And this cargo has originated from Far East ports. There was an incident in Liverpool where when the holes were opened and the stevedores entered into the holes, the pesticides, because of the gas that is emanated and because it was trapped within the grain cargo, it resulted in severe hospitalization. I mean, it resulted in hospitalization for about 5 stevedores. So what is now going to happen is that MSC is going to work on a circular that will be created and that provides recommendation to ship owners, ship operators on the use of pesticides for fumigating cargo holds. So this has been included in the current biennial agenda, which means at the next session of the CCC subcommittee, which is carriage of cargoes and containers, and the next session I believe is in September, CCC 9, I believe, yes. So at the next session, work will start on developing this circular. So more update upon this in the future when that session finishes. A very, very important topic, comprehensive review of the ISM code and related guidelines. This was a proposal introduced by Norway on doing a comprehensive review of the ISM code, and I would like to hear your opinion about this. When this proposal was introduced in the plenary at MSc 107, there was a lot of discussion. The opinion in the plenary, where all the member states discussed, including NGOs, it was thought that either the opinion was supporting the comprehensive review, or else the opinion was supporting a targeted review, so only certain areas of the ISM code, or else not supportive. Most of the industry, which was, which is represented by ICS, BIMCO, ITF, etc., we are not supportive of this proposal because what we feel is that ISM code is goal-based and it is generic. We do not want it to be very specific or prescriptive. So the industry was not supportive of this. What we want is that there are several circulars issued by MSc, which provide explanation on how to interpret the ISM code. We feel that those circulars can be revised for new technological developments. So what has been decided is that MSc has decided to keep this discussion at the moment in abeyance because IMO has commissioned a study into effectiveness of the ISM code. I am at the moment, as I speak, I am working with a survey company to develop a survey questionnaire for ship owners, for ship operators, as well as for charterers. And this questionnaire in the future is going to be circulated for for input from yourself. And based on the results from that questionnaire, the discussion will be taken at MSc 108 in May of next year as to whether we require a comprehensive review of the ISM code or a targeted review, or if we don't need to do anything about it. So more about this I can provide at the end of this year when the survey finishes. It is expected to finish in December of this year. Another important work that was approved was development on a guidance to address time pressure. And this was a proposal by the Human Element Industry Group. Now, just to give you a background, the Human Element Industry Group was formed under the instructions of His Excellency Kitek Lim, the IMO Secretary General. What we are doing in the Human Element Industry Group is we have developed a human element checklist which member states are using when they are requesting a new work. Or else we are also developing new recommendations for entry into enclosed spaces. And we are looking at it from a human element point of view, because we feel that whenever an accident takes place, an investigation is done, and invariably the result of the investigation is that some procedure was not followed, and the result is let us put another procedure so that in future it does not happen. But we feel that we have to look at the human element part of it. So that's what we do in the Human Element Industry Group. This circular on time pressure, what we feel is that, as an example, if a marine superintendent communicates with the shipboard master asking that the laycan for the next cargo is on a particular date, and are you able to make that laycan? So that puts some kind of a pressure on the shipboard management, and that pressure is transmitted to everyone under the management on board the ship, which results in accidents. So this is a circular that will give some guidance on how to address time pressure, and the organization where the shipboard management has to communicate with the DPA in case there are some concerns. So how to manage that? So this is a circular that is approved. As you can see below, it has gone to the HTW post biennial, which means that the work will not be undertaken now, but sometime in the future, depending on the workload of the HTW subcommittee, this work will be taken in the future. Personally, I feel that it won't be taken anytime soon, because HTW subcommittee is very busy with the comprehensive review of HTCW convention. So I don't see this happening anytime very soon, but this will come in the future. And this is going to be just a circular providing recommendation. So it is up to individual ship owners and ship operators to use that recommendation and to address this within their company's SMS. Next, there was a proposal for comprehensive review of call rigs. And this was a proposal by China. So China proposed that we have to review the day shapes of ships, the all-round lights, the visibility of all-round lights, and whether we require two sets of rules for vessels in sight of another or vessels in restricted visibility, because their argument was that we use modern methods for detection like radars, AIS, etc. Also, their argument was that the stand-on rule of call rigs is not very effective, because it puts pressure on the stand-on vessel to wait until a time when the stand-on vessel feels that action must be taken. There was a statement in this submission which says that respect for call rigs from seafarers has been compromised. I think that was a very very incredible statement, which personally I don't agree. However, this was opposed by all member states and the industry as well, because it was felt that China did not produce did not give sufficient justification for reviewing and revising call rigs, and the impact on shipping navigation of so many ships is going to be tremendous. So this proposal was rejected by MSC. So this will not go ahead. Other than this, there are several work that was agreed, but as you can see, most of them are in the post-biennial, which means it has been approved, but it will be taken up sometime in the future. So IMSBC code amendments, this is for solid bulk cargoes which are carried on board ships, but they are not listed in the IMSBC code. Shipboard towing arrangements, this is industry standards for what should be the requirements for towing a vessel, the bollard, how much should be the maximum bollard pull, what should be designated as an anchor handling winch, etc. Then there are amendments to the FSS code, and this is about construction requirements of gaskets, lashing software. So this has been approved. In addition to container stowage and securing plan, a lashing software can also be approved by flag administrations. Then there are guidelines for cyber risk management. It's going to be safety maintenance for navigation and communications equipment. And this will be new requirements under SOLAS Chapter 4 and Chapter 5. Chapter 4 for, of course, for communications, Chapter 5 for navigation. So software maintenance, now this will follow a system of survey and certification as well. Loss of containers. It has been approved that there will be new requirements for GPS tracking of containers which are lost at sea. So this could probably mean that in the future, every container must have a tracking system. So there will be a tracking system that will aid in positioning and recovery of lost containers. So this is going to be, I think, for the container industry, a significant work for that. Other than that, there was guidelines for harmonizing the date format. So as you know, the date format is sometimes it is DD MMYYY, or it is MMDDYYY, or it is DD MMM and YY. So there is going to be a requirement for harmonizing what should be the date format. I'm not aware, but perhaps flag administrations can might be having a lot of problem with interpreting what is the date of a certificate. And finally, the standard communication phrases. This is an assembly resolution which lists all the standard marine phrases. This is going to be revised as well. And as you can see, it is in the post-biennial, which means sometime in the future, depending on the workload of the HTW subcommittee. So these were the work that was decided. There are many other things that were decided under this agenda item, but I have only included those which I feel are of interest for you. Right? So thank you very much. I'm sorry that it was a bit boring, but thank you, and I'm open to any discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Arvind. First of all, it was not at all boring. You kept on giving interested points one after the other. And on a private chat, a few of the people have sent me questions.
Okay.
So before I start taking the question, I request everyone, whatever questions you have, please put it on the chat. Though on the chat, a lot of things are going on with the one question that why was there a need to have a oxygen system that what you call ventilated in the enclosed lifeboat. What triggered it? That was the first question. Though a lot of people they have answered it, but I want your views on that.
Yes. So this has started from there is a talk from the industry to once again find out what is the danger with CO2. So CO2, until now we know that it is asphyxiant, which means that lack of oxygen is the cause of deaths due to
What has
CO2.
happened in MSc 107? Uska
Sorry. So the lack of CO2 causes death due to lack of oxygen. However, new study has shown that CO2 levels beyond a certain level actually damages your internal systems. So as just as an example, normal CO2 levels in the atmosphere are anything between 400 to 4000 ppm. 400 to 4000 ppm is the normal CO2 level. However, beyond that, it is not just that it causes lack of oxygen, but the amount of CO2 damages your internal systems. This discussion has been going on for some time, and following that, it was now decided that beyond a limit of 5000 ppm, for those who think in terms of percentage of volume, more than 4% by volume of CO2. So current CO2 by volume is 0.04% or 0.01%, but more than 4% by volume is harmful to humans, not just because of asphyxiant, but because of damage to your internal systems. So that was what started this. And this discussion, as you can see, this is MSc 81 in the 70th session. The 70th session of MSc was more than 10 years ago. So this discussion has been going on for a long time, but finally a decision has been taken now that from 1st January 2029, the requirement for having ventilation so that ppm of carbon dioxide does not exceed 5000 is now going to be a requirement. But this discussion has been going on for more than 10 years now.
Thank you. I'll go to the next question. You mentioned about the regarding this autonomous ship, STCW will stay separately for the seafarers working on board, and there will be a separate STCW will be convened for the people operating autonomous ships. Is that the correct understanding, what you mentioned?
Yes. So a lot of the discussion at the moment is who is a seafarer. So from the point of view of labor, that is Transport Workers Federation, according to them, a seafarer is a person who works on a ship. Any person not working on a ship is not a seafarer. Some member states have been asking to define a seafarer in the STCW convention, because the seafarer is defined in Maritime Labor Convention, but not in STCW. But the argument is that STCW convention defines the competency. If you can achieve that competency, whether you are a person working on the ship or whether you are in remote operation, it does not matter. We do not have to define who is a seafarer. So after a lot of discussion, what has been decided is that if a person is working on a ship, now there are different levels of autonomy. As an example, fully autonomous would mean nobody working on the ship and no interference from a shore-based operation center. That is fully autonomous. And then there are different levels of autonomy where there might be more than one person or more interference from, not more interference, I meant more interaction from the people on board. So what has been decided is that if there is a person working on a ship, whether it is a traditional ship as we have now, or whether it is some kind of an autonomous ship, if a person is working on a ship, that requirement is under STCW convention. If a person is operating a ship, but away from the ship, in some location outside a ship, the training requirements will not be defined under STCW convention. This is what has been discussed. Of course, no decision has been made about this. There is going to be a lot of discussion, but that is the way the thinking is at the moment in the discussion is that if you want to define training requirements for any person, that person has to be on the ship for STCW convention. Outside the ship, it should be in another convention. That is the discussion that is happening now.
Okay, Arvind, I will come to the question related to this. They are asking that we have some ships which are operating semi-autonomous or autonomous. Which regulation is now governing the people who are not actually working on the ship? They are under which regulation? That was actually the question.
Okay, so at the moment, because it is not a SOLAS or STCW requirement, flag administrations can be proactive and have their own national instrument to recognize training requirements. So as an example, I can say that the Russian Federation operates autonomous ships within their own territorial waters and inland waters. They operate autonomous ships. What the Russian Federation has done is their administration has approved the training requirements. But this is for their own ships and for their own crew. So nothing stops a flag administration from approving requirements for their own seafarers or for their own ships. But as of now, under SOLAS, there is no requirement that has been defined. So I could say that an autonomous ship which is approved by a flag has got only a limited area of operation. It could be in the territorial waters, or for example, if for example Indian flag administration has got a bilateral agreement with Sri Lanka, then they can operate within the two areas. It depends on bilateral agreements. Otherwise, there is no SOLAS requirement for international operations.
Yeah, very clear. Actually, right now, we know Northern Europe and Japan is operating only in their territorial waters. So now
Yes, yes,
it is because of their own flag requirements.
yes. Yes,
I will go to the next question, which is coming to me. You said model courses should not be converted to e-learning. That is the IMO statement. However, you also said local administration can develop it. What does it mean? I hope what you meant to say, the model courses will stay without e-learning. But when you say local administration can develop e-learning, so just please give a little bit of light on that.
Yes. So what I can say is that, as an example, there is a model course available for electronic charts and display and information systems, ECDIS. A model course is available. So IMO has produced a model course which details how the course has to be delivered. Now, I must say that model courses are only a guidance. We do not have to follow model courses. The reason why they have model courses is because certain seafarer supply countries, as an example, I would say like Philippines. So in the STCW, you have got the training requirements. And then to explain how to deliver that, you have got the model course, which is not a requirement. It's not a mandatory requirement. But what the Philippines administration does is that they use the model course within to develop their own how to deliver the training. They use the model course. What has been decided is that IMO produces the model courses and they are in the form of a hard copy. You can get a digital version of that online, but it's just a hard copy. So IMO is not going to make that into an e-learning course. They are not going to show how to deliver it on a platform. However, as an example, Indian flag administration can take that model course and then develop an e-learning ECDIS course for use for their own seafarers. You can very well do that if Indian administration feels that way. So nothing stops an administration from going over and above what is the basic requirement, which is the IMO's model course. And again, I say the model course is not a mandatory requirement to be followed. It is just a guidance. So if a flag administration decides that they want to go over and above and create an e-learning course on the basis of that, they can go ahead. STCW convention allows administrations to have their own equivalent requirements. So why not? They can do that.
Thank you. I have few questions on the chat, on the open chat now. First is what is the ICS view on remote operator controller to be covered by STCW and your view on making new STCW? I will repeat. What is ICS view on remote operator controller to be covered by STCW and your view on making new STCW?
So I will just be clear that we will not have a new STCW convention. There is going to be only one STCW convention that defines the training requirements for a seafarer. Now, who is a seafarer? My view and the view of my employer is that if a person achieves that competency, which is defined in STCW, that person can do the operations of a ship. If that person has a physical presence on the ship, then that person is a seafarer. If the person has got a presence outside a ship, then that person is a remote operator, in which case we don't have to call that person a seafarer. We don't have to call them. That person can achieve the same requirements that a person working on board can. So to make it very clear, what we feel is that the training requirements of a person not working on a ship should not be defined in STCW. It should be in a separate convention. At this point, I don't know what that convention will be called. I don't know, but it should be in a separate convention. STCW should be for persons having a physical presence on the ship. I will say that this is the view of the industry and of myself. But then it ultimately IMO is about member states, so member states have to come to a decision about this.
Thank you. It's a similar question. I think you have already answered, but I will read out the question. Can you please advise of the discussion on the role and responsibilities of the master / remote operator in mass issues like emergency on board, maintenance of equipment? How can these be handled? I think you already said there's a separate convention, but anyway, just say something on this.
Yes. So unfortunately, the discussions that are happening right now are more political in nature. So during the discussions, we are only a few seafarers and the rest are lawyers. So most of the discussion is about, as an example, if an autonomous ship is involved in a pollution incident and that affects a coastal state, how will they enforce the liability of that incident? How will they enforce it on an autonomous ship? And then the UNCLOS, United Nations Convention for Law of the Sea, specifically says that ships have to be manned, which means they want persons on board involved in a pollution incident, and that affects a coastal state. Yes. So the other thing is UNCLOS requires a ship to be actually manned, which means a physical presence. So and the IMO's regulations, of course, UNCLOS is a United Nations convention. So how do we work on this? So unfortunately, at this time, the discussions are mostly political, and these are really specific issues which have not yet been discussed. So I'm sorry, I'm not able to answer that question.
No, it is clear because the convention is still to be made for the people, remote operators. So it was clear.
Yes.
Philip Matthew, I'll come to you. Just let me read the two more questions from this thing. There's another question. What new guidelines are expected in enclosed space entry procedures?
Okay. So Assembly Resolution 1050 is providing a recommendation for entry into enclosed space. With the human element industry group, I am working for a new recommendation for entry into enclosed space. What is going to happen is that if you remember in A1050, it mentioned what is an enclosed space and gave examples. For example, it said an enclosed space could be, and a non-exhaustive list, cargo tanks, but holds were not mentioned, compressor rooms, etc., ballast tanks, etc. That list provides a lot of confusion because first of all, it is a recommendation, and secondly, it says that this is non-exhaustive, which means it is up to the company to identify on a ship-by-ship basis which are the enclosed spaces. But that causes a lot of confusion because people look at that list and think that those are the only enclosed spaces. So the first thing that you will notice in the revised recommendation, which will be discussed in September this year, is that there will be no list of enclosed spaces, only a definition, and then it will be a requirement for companies to identify. Another thing that is going to come is there is going to be a requirement to have a enclosed space register. So there will be a ship specific register which will identify which are the enclosed spaces. Another thing which is going to come in the future is that we are going to there is a possibility of discussion of zones of enclosed space. So enclosed spaces will be divided into zones. So for example, a cargo pump room can be considered as an enclosed space because there is a danger on tankers, I mean, can be considered as an enclosed space because there is a danger that flammable vapors or can be present there. However, people do work inside a cargo pump room. But a cargo pump room is a different kind of enclosed space as compared to a cargo tank, where you are not expected to normally work inside a cargo tank, not normally. So there's going to be zone enclosed space categorization. So these are new things that are going to be going to be discussed, but the discussion will start in September this year, and I will be able to provide more details later after the session completes. Those are the new things in enclosed spaces.
Thank you. There's a remark regarding this IMO guidelines remain guidelines. However good they are, unless made mandatory. That is why OSIMF has to pressurize improvement in ship operations. So what the point they are saying, ISM is very poor standard. If ISO can keep revising upward, why not ISM? What is your take on that?
What I would say is that if you look at ISM code, I believe it is 1.2.2.2. I'm really sorry because I keep looking at that all the time. But it says that the company has to identify risks. It does not say what the risks are. It says company has to identify risks. So what the company has to do is within their safety management system, they have to identify ship specific what are the risks. A lot of member states feel that we have to now specify exactly what the risks are. But the industry opinion is that no, the ISM code is generic. Leave it to the industry to decide what are the risks. Don't make it very prescriptive. So yes, we can definitely look at reviewing the ISM code, and there can be a discussion on how effective it is. But I think the discussion is more about how the ISM code is implemented. How good are the internal audits that are conducted by the company? Are they really good enough? What about the external audit, which is conducted by the flag? Are they good enough in identifying areas which are causing concern? So the problem is more about implementation of ISM code. The code itself is not a problem. This is the general view across the industry. However, member states have got a different opinion. So I think if I put on my industry hat on, I feel that ISM code as it is fine. We can always review the circulars that MSC provides to explain how to interpret the ISM code. Those can be reviewed, but I don't think that the ISM code itself needs to be reviewed. But that, as I say, is the industry opinion.
Thank you. The next question is, what was discussed on the pilot ladder safety under NCSR? We as AMPA Maritime Pilot Association made a lot of suggestions towards securing of manufacturing of pilot ladder.
Yes. So what has been discussed about that is that under SOLAS chapter 5, but I forget the regulation number, there is going to be a specific requirement, recommendations on pilot ladder requirements, and those recommendations are going to be developed. IMPA is involved in that, and there are several pilots from the Netherlands Pilots Association who have already developed guidelines. Now it is just a matter of agreeing on that. But small things such as there should be specific strong points for securing pilot ladder. These are some of the things that need to be discussed, and what should be the requirement for pilot ladders, where you walk through a platform. What should be the requirements for that? These are going to be discussed, the recommendations, but that is going to be discussed in the future. It is in the post-biennial, so I don't know how soon that will happen. But yes, new requirements will be there for pilot ladder arrangements.
Thank you. When I'll give it to Captain Philip Matthew. He had raised his hand. Captain Matthew, you have a question? Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you very much, Captain ARVIND. And my question is relating to I have two small queries. I just wanted to know, I understand there has been some amendments to SOLAS regarding onboard lifting appliances and anchor handling winches. Now, what was existing already on board, what is the change which has come that, like they say, it should be now approved by class and the classification society rules and equivalent rules which are accepted by the administration as such. So what is the impact on the industry due to these changes? This is my first query. And second is regarding this the huge hype going on about this mask code, the non-mandatory code, which is to come in effect from 1st January 2026, and the mandatory code, which is going to come into effect from 1st January 2028. Now, what what percentage of the global fleet is going to accept this? And what is because why I am asking specifically, because I understand this whole MSC as the working groups have been on the mask code, and there are intersectional groups, there are many other groups working on this. Well, what do you think? Is it going to be a reality? And being a labor supplying country like India, what do you think? Will it make any impact going ahead in the next 20-25 years? Thank you. No, there's nothing. That is only my two queries. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Regarding your first query about lifting appliances. So as you can see in the pointer I'm showing, it was actually discussed under shipboard towing and mooring equipment. And the question was about designation of an anchor handling winch. At present, the windlass can be designated as an anchor handling winch. It is, of course, handling an anchor, but that's not what we want. So there was a discussion on changing what should be defined as an anchor handling winch, and with reference to towing arrangements and all the gear that are involved in towing, more requirements as to specifying what should be the bollard pull, what should be the requirements for testing and certification of these towing equipment. As you can see, it has been put in the SDC. SDC stands for Ship Design and Construction Post-Biennial. So by post-biennial, what it means is that it has been approved, this work has been approved, but it has been put into some future plan, and depending on the workload of SDC, it will be taken up in the future. When it will be taken up, I really cannot say. It could be next year, it could be after quite a few years, because as I said, some items in the post-biennial have been on that agenda from 2011. So at the moment, I'm not able to say when this work will be taken. So for now, there is no immediate impact on existing ships. And I don't know about new ships because the work has not been taken. So at the moment, no impact. With reference to your next question about mass, that's quite a question, because I think the percentage of the autonomous fleet at the moment is very, very low, very low. And I mean, to be honest, it is driven by Europe-based operators. And at the moment, the existing autonomous fleet is operating only within the territorial or inland waters of certain countries. So I don't see any strong appetite for taking this on a higher level. Yes, a mass code is being developed, but the requirements are very, very generic. And we have acknowledged, actually, all of us in the working groups have acknowledged that it requires a lot of work. From a labor point of view, I do not see an impact, at least within the next 30 years. I do not see any impact. And when an impact starts to happen, I believe it will be minimal, because at the moment, levels of autonomy have been defined. The final level of autonomy is fully autonomous, where a ship will have its own intelligence and no interference either on board or ashore. I don't see that happening within my lifetime. I don't see that happening. So there will be other levels of autonomy, which means that there will be a person on board and there will be some kind of remote operation. So in the future, in the far future, we will see a new workforce which operates ships, but I don't see any immediate impact within the next 30 years. I don't see any immediate impact. So yes, the mass code will be mandatory, but it will apply to a very, very small percentage of the shipping fleet.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Captain L.K. Panda, sir. He has raised his hand. Captain Panda.
Yeah, thank you, Vaseem. And Arvind, I'd like to have a little puzzled, the agenda item 15 talks about replacement of GMDSS equipments because the performance standards have been increased, right? You had A1, A2, A3, and for convenience, many countries opted for the satellite based and went for A3 area. Now, this is not only specific to this convention or the equipment, because it's going to bring in tremendous expense on all ships. Now, my question is, are you aware of any work paper or any study that was carried out where whether for A1 or for A2 in the VHF, MFHF or the SAT-C, any deficiency that was observed which prompted this massive action from the industry as well as by the IMO, because it gives a different kind of impression. So that is question one. Allow me to put another one more or less on the same line. As for agenda 17, yes, it's a good thing because the container ships are increasing in size and we are seeing a lot of casualties, and quite a few empty containers are sort of, they fall overboard and they are creating a lot of problems in safety of navigation. So the idea of tracking and tracing of containers is fine in case of casualty. But look at the enormous work. And then again, we are talking about tracking the containers. So what kind of tracking it will be? We found it very difficult in tracking the ships till LRIT came. And even for casualty ships, they were fitted with EPIRBs. So is there a thought process that the containers will be fitted with similar kind of a mini EPIRB or some kind of thing? So these questions, these two questions I have posed are, I'm not questioning the prudence of it, but was there any work paper which prompted IMO to take such massive decision? which will have severe impact on the cost of on the ship owners as well as on the cargo owners, because ultimately the cost of the freight is going to go up till the tracing and blah 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 things like that. So it will have a tremendous impact on the trade. So just your views only.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'll start with what you asked about GMDSS equipment. So, two organizations. One is the International Telecommunications Union, and the other is a French-based organization called CIRM, and they have worked on the new performance standards. However, they have also said that for new equipment to conform with the performance standards, mostly the new performance standards are with reference to allowing digital services like digital dissemination of maritime safety information, etc. So what they have said, and there is a study which is there. I mean, if it is of interest, I can forward that study to you. What they have said is that existing GMDSS equipment manufacturers will not be able to meet the supply requirements of the new equipment. Originally, it was supposed to be adopted in 2024, coming into force in 2026. So it was explained by ITU as well as CIRM that existing manufacturers will not be able to meet that requirement. So then the discussion was to extend it to 2028. However, privately, it was also decided, it was also discussed that even 2028 is not going to be a deadline that can be met. But as of now, it has been extended to 2028, and in future it might be extended. So as of now, the old performance standards, which are in, if I can say, it is in the 19th session of the Assembly. I think it's Assembly Resolution 803 and 804 and 806. 803, 804, 806 of the 19th session Assembly. Those performance standards are still in force until 2028. So the impact currently on ships is nothing. We have time until 2028, and I believe that it will be extended further. But yes, there is a study, and the study shows that there is going to be a backlog. There's going to be a lot of difficulty to supply new equipment. When it comes, so I'll just go to the next one. When it comes to formal safety assessment, this is about loss of containers. This work actually went ahead with Express Pearl, the container ship that that caught fire and off southern Sri Lanka, and it resulted in plastic pellets pollution. So the work started from there. Now this is a study. The link for the study is there in the second paragraph. This is a study conducted by EMSA. The study is available on their website, and if you click on this link, you can get it. EMSA has done the study, and they have suggested some measures. It does not necessarily mean that member states will agree to that, because I understand it. It is a huge task to have tracking on every individual container which is lost at sea. But this, I think, is still better than what was earlier being proposed. So earlier, the proposal was that if containers are lost at sea, then the master has to provide a list of every container, including the packing, including the details of the container's cargo, has to be transmitted by the master, which was just, I mean, from a operational point of view, I think it is just impossible. So this is so the study proposes some measures, but it is now going ahead to an experts group where industry will be sitting in that, and we will be debating on practicability of doing those things. So I think that the matter has to be we have to go to this matter in a different way. We stop containers from being lost rather than doing something when the container is actually lost.
Correct.
We have to do something on stopping containers being lost. That would mean a more robust system of declaring what is the cargo inside a container and better firefighting or better safety measures when container vessels are going on transatlantic or trans-Pacific passage. So we have to tackle it from that manner rather than what to do after a container is lost. So, but that is my opinion. But then this is just a suggestion from EMSA. I won't say that this is going to be decided. This has to be discussed by member states and industry.
Yeah. Thanks, Arvind. I get it. The first one is I recall when we participated in the ITU, the change was required because in the first GMDSS, lot of facility or a lot of relaxation was given to analog based equipments, which
Yes.
kept on. Now with the new digitalization, of course, every equipment has to be updated. I totally agree. In the second part, I'm totally in sync with your thought that instead of tracking and tracing, effort should be made for proper declaration of cargo in the containers, because most of the containers which are taking fire, which are catching fire, are because of wrong declaration of cargo, which we have observed on our coast, such as the bleaching powder being declared as water cleaning compounds and catching fire later on. Anyway, that's a huge task. You rightly said that the effort should be made to prevent, then to track later on. Thanks a lot for the explanation.
No problem, sir. No problem, sir.
Thank you, everyone. It has been a very excellent session. We have covered all the questions. If I missed something, please send it to us to the CMI on the email. Captain Arvind, it has been a thrilling experience interacting with you, and I'm sure the audience has thoroughly enjoyed this very, very informative session. I must say that. Very, very informative. And before I invite Captain Halbe to give a vote of thanks, I must tell you, Arvind, I'm not going to let you go just with one session on CMI. We are going to get you back with a various such sessions. Thank you. Thank you very much. Captain Halbe, sir. Captain Halbe is not there, Sasi?
I think we may have lost him, sir.
Oh, okay. Captain Halbe, we have lost him. Okay, then I give a vote of thanks on his behalf. My sincere thanks to everyone. I also must mention the viewers are from all across the globe. Our Dubai and Singapore chapter chairmen themselves are here. All our media magazines in India, all of them are here. Not only our senior members of CMI and other members. Oh, Captain Halbe is here. I saw him. Captain Halbe?
That was a flash.
That was a flash.
No, he's there very much. Not able to hear us.
He's there. He's there. Captain Halbe, sir. All yours for the vote of thanks.
Firstly, I must thank you for not telling me that I will be giving vote of thanks. But yeah, I was very much here. But Captain Arvind, thank you very much for sparing time on a Saturday early morning for you, and guiding us through all the changes expected in 107. Yes, some of us had been monitoring the development at 107. And when you made the comment that it is political, well, that's the first thing that came to mind when we sat there, that yes, it is indeed a very political exercise. But at the end of the day, the International Maritime Organization is a political body. So you can't expect politics to be away from the scene. I must thank I wanted to thank the company of master mariners, but I cannot because I am a member. So I cannot thank the company of master mariners.
So please thank. We are willing.
Because it's our role as a warden. I must say it's our job to bring such events to our members and to the fraternity. I must thank the maritime media who have taken the pains to and facilitated this this event to be broadcast. Thank you very much, sir. And I must thank all the participants. At one point, I saw there were 58 participants who logged in to this wonderful event. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you,
And
sir.
we should
Thank
have
you.
many more.
There were 58, they were here, now
Yeah.
they're going down. I'm
That's
sure
okay.
there will be many on the CMI Facebook page and the
YouTube,
Teller
yeah.
Today YouTube.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, Captain Bhasin, sir, if we can meet up after this immediately.
Okay. Sasi?
On the same link, sir.
Yeah, sure. Let's all exit.
I think I grossly exceeded the time, sir.
I know it's your today you have to take your son for the football.
There's still time for that. but it's supposed to be a 45-minute session. I think we went far ahead.
It was very engrossing, very interesting. You know why? Because there's a whole lot of things in that 107, but you took out the bullet point. You took out the main thing, especially concerning the manning and training people. And most of us over here are from there.
I think so. There are so many things in. So I saw the report that IR class sent, but they send it according to their own membership. What is of interest for them? So I just thought I'll put something which is of interest to our members.
Yeah, Arvind, you wanted to talk something? Or you want to talk one-to-one only because there are a lot of people here. What shall we should log in again in a separate this thing. So we end this session and we log in again in a separate session.
All right, sir. Okay, sir. Nice.